watched the title of today's speech, "Do Your Knives Cut the Mustard?" Today I want to present 3 simple things that you can do to reduce injuries from knives. First of those is keep them sharp. Second, good technique when you're cutting. And third, use the right knife for the right job. So let's talk about the first one. I have here my official replica scale model of a classic Musto 5 8" chef's knife, which I brought in because we can't bring knives in. So I'm going to talk about this one. First thing, keep them sharp. Why do you need to keep them sharp? One issue there is if you have a knife that's very dull, it requires a lot of force to push. And if you happen to cut through something or the knife slips, you've got a lot of force behind it and it's going to go like this. If you keep it sharp, it goes through with little effort, makes a nice clean cut. And also, a clean cut is important if you go into surgery. Do you want the doctor to use a dull knife? No, why not? He's got a saw through there, he's trying to blast it through it, doesn't work. You want to keep your knives sharp because they make a nice clean cut, requires little force. And also, if you do happen to slip and cut yourself, a dull knife is like a saw or a bludgeon. A sharp knife will make a nick, and it's going to be a nice clean cut. It's a lot easier to bandage up and just put that flap of skin back in. So that's the first thing. Keep your knife sharp. Second thing, good technique. Part A of that is hold it properly. A lot of people, they hold their knives like this. You don't want to do that. If you're out bushwhacking with a machete, fine, go like this. But for cutting, that's fine control work. What you want to do is get right up, right next to the blade of that knife. And some people like to have the finger out. I actually like to wrap mine around like this, so that when you're chopping, it's just nice fine motor control. You're not chopping from here. You're not bushwhacking again from here. And second part of that, you don't want to forget about what to do with your left hand. So if you're going to use this special one, that if you're cutting, don't have your fingers out here, because that's a good way to get them sliced off. What you want to do is get a hold of your food and then wrap your fingers around so that the knife is against your knuckles. So then when you start cutting, you can just have your knuckles resting against the blade while you're cutting. There you go. One last thing is to use the right knife for the right job. So, like I talked about before, and I just said something. If you're bushwhacking, fine. Go out with a machete. You don't want to try and do it with this kind of a knife. If you're chopping food, you want to use the classic chef's knife like this, so you can do all of your chopping. If you're paring an apple, you don't want to use a knife like this. Use a small knife. And bread knives, those have a serrated blade, and that's important because bread has a hard crust with a soft inside, and you need a certain type of blade to be able to chop through that. This thing is just going to tear up your bread if you try to do that. And don't use a screwdriver like this. Go get a screwdriver if you need a screwdriver. Don't use the tip of your knife. And I also brought one other one. That's a box cutter. If you're trying to open a box, this probably isn't the way you want to do it. And it looks ridiculous when I do this, but people will try and do that. It's something like a box cutter, because then you only have this much blade sticking out. And that way, you can go this, reduce the risk of injury, and it also has the benefit of when you're cutting your box, you don't tend to cut the thing that's inside your box. And that's it. 3 simple things for safety with your knives at home. 1, you want to make sure that they're sharp. 2, use good technique when you're cutting with your knives. 3, make sure you use the right knife for the right job. Stay safe so you can make all your wishes and dreams come true. This is Joe Smeskin.